This is a Ford Mustang, and if you're in the market for one of these, you've clicked on the right video. Well done. Hang around, we're going to cover all the common problems and show you exactly what you need to know. Now let's go. So Jack, this is your Mustang. How long you had it?
Bought the car in January. I've been running it since. Bought it low mileage at 19,000 and I've just been running it in since. Got 12,000 miles under my belt now. Built to be driven.
Awesome. Have you had any problems in that time? Has it been quite reliable?
No problems at all. Went through 2 front tyres. I think that's down to part of the weight over the front. It wears the inside of the tyre a little bit early, but that's the only thing.
Did you go through a couple of rears as well?
Yeah, I went through a couple of rears, but that was yeah, a bit of fun that. Yeah.
Insert clip here.
Yeah.
So, you obviously went for the V8, you went for the big one. Did you ever consider the EcoBoost?
I hadn't considered EcoBoost, no. I was looking at RS's before, but if you're going to get a Mustang, personally, I think you need to go all out, V8 or nothing.
And finally, obviously a lot of people watching this are thinking about buying one. Would you recommend it?
Definitely. I've enjoyed every minute of it, and I don't want to get rid of it. So, yeah, definitely recommend.
So specifically, we're talking here about the 6th generation Mustang. Reason being, well, this is the first one that we were able to buy here in the UK. Now, if you're watching this video, you're probably already aware also there was 2 different engine options. We could get this, the full-fat 5-litre V8, which is the one that you probably want, let's be honest, or you could get the 2.3-litre EcoBoost. Now, no matter what one of those you're looking at, we're going to cover both and tell you all the common problems. Now, I'm aware there was also a V6 available, but given that we didn't get that here in the UK, we're just not that familiar with it. Certainly, the V8 and EcoBoost though, let's cover them. So let's kick off with the V8 engine. It's a good old, as honest as they come, V8 Coyote, and honestly, not that many problems to mention. Let's get into it. So first thing you need to know is there was a few changes that came to this engine in the 2018 facelift of this car. Now, power was brought up to 450 brake horsepower from the original 410. They also added direct injection and it had plasma lined cylinders as well. But it seemed to exacerbate one of the problems that existed beforehand, and that was a ticking that could come from the engine. Some owners would report it sounded a bit like an old typewriter. Ford themselves actually acknowledged this as well, but ultimately failed to identify the underlying cause of it, so they just deemed it as normal. So what was that ticking then? Well, the concern was that it was piston slap. What is piston slap, you ask? Well, that's where the piston meets the internal walls of the cylinder. Over time, it starts to cause wear, and obviously, that sort of wear can lead to failure. Now, a few of these engines have failed, more so over in the US, and when they've been inspected, there's been some wear on those cylinder walls, which further leads into this theory. Now, I'm not for 1 minute saying every one of these engines is going to fail in that manner. What I'm saying here is I would listen out carefully to the one that you're looking at. Some of them are quieter than others, and some of them are really quite noisy, and if that's the case, I'd probably be walking away from it. So what about the other one, the other engine, the 2.3-litre EcoBoost? Now, actually, only 15% of buyers specified that in their new Mustangs. Most went for the V8. But if you're looking at an EcoBoost, what do you need to be aware of? Well, the biggest problem is the head gaskets. These can fail, and therefore, you want to be on the lookout for any common head gasket symptoms. So low coolant levels, sweet smell and exhaust fumes, and a rough idle. Any of them, and it points to head gasket problems. Now, here's the other thing. With direct inject engines, they can tend to coke up. In other words, the internals of the engine, the inlets, the valves can all get hard carbon packed onto them, and really that should be cleaned off periodically to keep the engine running optimally. This is something we see all the time in the performance Audi world because they use a lot of direct injection. Not a problem, but keep that extra maintenance cost in mind. Now, if you've had either of those engines and you've had any problems with them, please do let us know in the comments below. Now, before we get on to this next one, and you want to know about it, believe me, quick favour to ask from you guys, if you're enjoying this video, please do give it a like, and also, if you like being in the know when you go out to buy second-hand cars, hit that subscribe button as well, because we create these guides for literally every type of car. And finally, the owner of this car is quite active on Instagram. I'm going to add his Instagram tag here, so go off and give him a follow as well. What's that next problem I'm talking about? Well, this was a biggie when these cars were new, and it was to do with the air conditioning. Now, what would happen is the evaporator would leak, and number one, that meant no nice cool aircon for you, and number two, it meant some sore heads for you, because that evaporator would leak its gases and such into the cabin, and they really shouldn't be breathed in. In fact, some customers actually said it would leave a white film on the windscreen. It was that bad. So yeah, bottom line, double check that that aircon blows nice and cold with no other weird symptoms. Let's talk about the ambient air temperature sensor, which is located just behind this grille. Why is it a big problem if that breaks? Because it tends to only read the outside temperature. Why do we need that? Well, it's a problem because the air conditioner that we've just been talking about is dependent on this outside temperature working correctly. So let me explain it to you. When it fails, it reads 10 degrees. Therefore, the car thinks the outside temperature is 10 degrees. If it's not, and it's a particularly hot day, it's going to pump air into the cabin as if it was 10 degrees outside. In other words, it's going to pump hot air in there, and it's going to take ages for that aircon to be efficient. Now, it tends to be misdiagnosed as an air conditioning problem, but it can be that. So check the temperature inside the car. Next up, check this high-level brake light works. Why we're focusing on that specifically is because there's a wiring harness in this boot that's responsible for that, the satellite radio, the reverse camera, and potentially some other things that can fail. And when it does, none of this stuff is going to work. So check that that works, and if it doesn't, pay particular attention to both the radio and that reverse camera. So for these last few problems we need to talk about, we could stand here a little bit longer, or we could take it for a rip on the road. I wonder what we'll choose. So here we are, undoubtedly the bit you've been looking forward to, getting the car out on a test drive. Now I do apologise in advance if my audio quality's dropped a little bit. We're using the proper professional microphones outside the car to pick up this gorgeous V8. Hopefully you guys agree that's the right decision. So what do we need to check on that test drive then? Well, this would be hard to miss, but double check that speedo and that sat nav are both working okay. They're quite common failure points, particularly on the earlier Mustangs. Also double check that the windows go up and down correctly, because water ingress can stop that from happening. So let's talk gearboxes for a minute. As standard, you were going to get the 6-speed manual gearbox. Now it was pretty good in terms of feel and the way it engaged and such. However, be aware there is a class action lawsuit out against Ford with this gearbox, and the things cited in that were rough engagement and a whining noise, so double check that's not the case on the one that you're looking at. Now if you're interested in an auto Mustang, depending on the year, that'll determine what one you get. So probably the better of the two in terms of reliability was this one, the 6-speed auto. Now if you buy a facelift and it's 2018 onwards, you're going to get that newer 10-speed box, but again another class action lawsuit is out against that, and the thing cited in that is rough engagement and various noises coming from the gearbox. So either of the two autos, just double check that all those gears engage nice and cleanly and you're not getting anything untoward happening there. And there you go, you now have all the tips you need to go out there and find yourself a fantastic Mustang. But don't click off of this video just yet, hang around and see how it scores on a reliability leaderboard. Well, these things are actually insanely reliable. There's a few things to be aware of, but then again, that's why we make these videos, so you can go out there and get the best example possible. With all that in mind, we score it a very respectable 8 out of 10. Now, thank you so much for watching. Please do like and subscribe, and we'll catch you on the next video.